Hello, and thanks for visiting my channel. Have you been an APR customer for a couple of years and heard about their recent software updates? Are you wondering whether or not you should update your software? Well, I've updated mine, and I'm here to tell you what I think of it. Stick around. For those of you who don't know, I have a 2017 GTI Sport trim. It's very similar to the Rabbit. Basically, it is a base S with lighting and performance packages. I bought the car on Veterans Day of 2016, so I am approaching the 3-year anniversary of this car, and I am working on a video where I tell you what's gone wrong, what's gone right over the past 3 years. So stay tuned if you want to see that video. I flashed the car to stage 1 when the car was about 6 months old. It had 17,000 miles on it, and much to my surprise, the clutch lasted for 15,000 miles. Remember, I tow with this car, and so towing can be a little abusive on clutches. I am used to driving, or was used to driving TDIs at the time, and my TDI had, I want to say it was around 350 pound-feet, and I had an upgraded clutch, and so I could just floor it at 2,000 RPM with the trailer in tow, and all was okay. One cool fall morning, I did that with this car. I had a trailer, and I made the mistake of stabbing the accelerator at 2,000 RPM, and it slipped. It didn't blow up, but it just slipped, and that was my little warning shot that, oops, time for a new clutch. I went ahead and dropped in an RSR kit, link in the description below, details on my website, and then at the 15-month mark, that was basically 3 months later. The car had 45,000 miles on it, and that was when I upgraded to stage 2. I did the intercooler and the exhaust, the downpipe, not the exhaust, just the downpipe. I did not upgrade the airbox, and so perhaps since stage 2 requires the airbox to get the full power of 336 horsepower and 404 pound-feet, I would estimate that I was maybe making 330. The low end torque was still there. We'll go with the 404. Obviously, that's not at the wheels. That's a crank estimate. At the wheels, I think it was 290. Torque, I don't remember what it was. And I've been driving with that. The car now has nearly 92,000 miles on it. And so I've been driving like that since the 45,000 mile mark. And the car's been doing really well. I would occasionally, sporadically, completely unpredictably, I couldn't duplicate the problem. Sometimes I'd get some preignition. Back in the old days, we used to call it pinging. I don't hear people calling it that anymore. Preignition. Some people refer to it as low-speed preignition, LSPI. I think APR might have been the ones who introduced me to that idea when I contacted them to say, "Hey, have you heard of this?" They wanted me to take some logs. I couldn't do it because I couldn't repeat it. So very, very sporadic. It wasn't a burden, but it was there. It was in the back of my mind as far as, okay, I got to be careful here. Stabbing it at low RPM, right? Well, about 4 to 6 months ago, APR released a final update to their programs. They had been bought by a larger company. A lot of people say Dyno, but I looked, and it looks like it's a bigger company that owns Dyno as well. I don't remember the name of the company. I'll flash it on the screen here. They bought APR, and that exposed APR to some new tuning tools, different dynamometers, some pressure gauges and whatnot. I don't know what all that stuff is, but check this link in the video description. It'll take you to their website, and they talk about how they took some measurements and stuff like that. So once they did all those new measurements, and by the way, with more than just an in-house test car, now they've got thousands of cars in the wild that they can get feedback from customers, and they made some tweaks to the tune, and the first thing people noticed was the loss of low-end torque to the tune of around 25 to 30 pound-feet. A lot of people were really unhappy about that, and I was a skeptic too. I like my low-end torque, but you know what, 375 pound-feet ain't bad either. The horsepower gain was reportedly 1 horsepower. But if you look at the dyno plots, Sure, the peak gain is 1 horsepower, but when you look at the difference at the top of the curve at the higher RPMs, it's actually closer to 15 when you're up around 6,500 RPM. So check out this graph. What it is it's an old graph from APR's website back when I got first tuned, and it compares stage 1 to stage 2, and then I have crudely plotted in green their program update. And yes, you can see the loss of low end torque, but you can also see the top end gains in horsepower. Again, these are different dynamometers at different times, and so it's not an apples to apples comparison, but you can still see the difference. My wife and I were getting ready to hit the road to drive to Parris Island to retrieve our daughter from Marine Corps boot camp. And new Marines leave Parris Island with a lot of stuff. 2 big sea bags, a pretty thick garment bag, and a duffel bag. Combine that with my wife and my stuff, and that's not all fitting back here in a GTI. We needed the trailer, so we took the trailer with us. And by the way, I've got a story about my daughter and her boot camp experience, and that trip, by the way. It's on my website. I'll put a link in the description below. We're pretty proud of her accomplishment. Marine Corps boot camp, not only is it tough, but it's 13 weeks. It's a tough boot camp. But she had a setback, which had her training continuously for 22 weeks. We're very proud of her tenacity and determination to get through it. And so we're pretty happy with what she's done. Feel free to check it out if you're interested. Because of the low speed Preignition, again, mine was unpredictable. I'm not sure if it happened more often when I was towing the trailer, but because I knew I was getting ready to go on a road trip with the trailer, I decided to update my program. The drive went well. 10 days later, it was time to take her to Camp Geiger for Marine combat training. And she had a friend that was going with her as well. So now we've got 2 Marines, 2 parents, our bags, 4 big sea bags, 2 big garment bags, and 2 duffels. So the trailer was packed. The car was kind of heavy. We had about 700 pounds of meat and duffel bags in our car, the meat being us, of course. And then the trailer weighed around 800 pounds with all of their stuff. So combined load, car and trailer, was around 4,700 pounds. So the car was not overloaded. The trailer was only half loaded. Well, I mean, it was full, but weight-wise, it was only half loaded. So, we were in good shape, individual vehicle, but the overall load, we were kind of heavy. I did actually do a spirited pass with somebody on a 2-lane highway. No low-speed Preignition. The car did still get up and go. They were pretty surprised with all the weight in the car. And I've been pleased with it. My overall thoughts, finally, gosh, almost 9 minutes into the video, my overall thoughts of APR Stage 2 update. Yes, I definitely feel the loss of low end torque. I can feel it. But I also feel the increased top end power. 1 horsepower, nobody's going to feel that. But 15, if it is in fact 15 horsepower, I definitely feel that at the top. I don't drive my car to 6,500 RPM. I don't know if it has a rev limiter cutout. I don't know if it abruptly pulls back boost in power. I don't know if it'll just rip until it blows. But what I do know is it does have some really nice top end pull. With that said, when I drive the car, I do feel a difference in the low end thrust. It's just not quite there. I don't break the tires loose like if I want to have a little fun. I leave traction control engaged the vast majority of time. But even with the traction control engaged, the old file would break the tires loose. I don't really get that so much anymore. And that's okay, but if I want to break the tires loose, and I just turn off traction control, and bam, I've got spinning tires and burnouts and stuff. But that amount is not so terrible. What I do notice though is at the top, say above 5,500 RPM, the car just kind of rips along a little bit better, noticeably better. Nobody would be able to detect a 1 horsepower difference in top end power. But if you look at that span there between I want to say it's around 6,000 to 6,500 RPM. The difference is closer to 15 horsepower, and I do feel that. And if you can feel it, then that means it's more than 1 horsepower. So I'm pretty happy with that. When I make a spirited pass or something like that, I can definitely tell the difference. In town, I can tell the difference in the loss of low-end torque, but I'm okay with that. Some other things I notice is when I am driving in traffic without cruise control engaged. This will sound kind of dumb, but I can tell that it takes a little bit more effort to maintain a speed, because the car's not as responsive at low RPM as it used to be. And as silly as that sounds, I will find myself, unless I'm following somebody and matching speeds with them, I'll find myself slowing down unintentionally. So I guess my brain is tuned to hearing a certain RPM, and maybe my ankle is accustomed to having the accelerator pressed to a certain degree. I don't know. It requires a little bit more now, and so I'm not retrained to that yet. But at cruise control, if I have the cruise control set, it certainly maintains the speed that it's supposed to. So again, it's a really petty thing to point out, but it's there. It's I think, you know, it stands to reason that with less torque being demanded at the low end, that is going to request less spool of the turbo and less fuel being introduced. Perhaps the car's getting better fuel economy as well. And I went on a drive just this morning. I have a test loop that I do. It is 200 miles of really boring driving if you're doing the speed limit, but I returned 38 miles to the gallon on that drive. Now, I've gotten 38 miles to the gallon before, so it's not unheard of, but 38 miles to the gallon out of a 337 horsepower car, that's pretty nice. So they certainly didn't hurt anything with the new program. There had to have been something else that I wanted to share with you, but I just can't think of it right now. So if you think that I've missed something, go ahead and post a question. I'll be glad to answer it. Thanks for visiting. I appreciate you being here. Click subscribe if you'd like to see what else I have coming. Up next, it's either going to be the updates that I did to the stereo, or it's going to be my 3-year anniversary What's Gone Wrong video. I haven't decided yet. It depends on how the timing of it all works out. So stick around if you want to see either of those 2 videos. And thanks again for being here. Take care.